A few years ago, I began a new spiritual journey. Raised a Christian, but tired of my confusion and denying my gifts, I decided to take a new path of discovery and internal growth. Along the way, one thing I realized was how many others are in a similar place in their lives, knowing there's more, but stuck in their own conditioning or doubt. So I started this podcast as a way of vocalizing the things I was learning, a way to discover the world of spirituality and see if I'm right, that things are not as different as we've been told, that it's all connected and the universe is so much bigger than we knew. I want to be your bridge out of the chaos to help you see new things, to get unstuck, and maybe even find your purpose and your path. To be honest, there'll be days that there's no telling what we'll talk about here, but it'll always be fun and a chance to learn something as we move through the chaos and cross the bridges between what you think you know and what you think you don't. I'm Heather, this is Ballyhoo Bridge, and I hope you'll come along for the ride with me. So for you guys that have been around here for a minute, I'm sure you know that fully committing to a spiritual path on this podcast, and well, truthfully, in my life, has not really been easy for me. You know how it is. You grow up with certain expectations from society and from your family. And of course, I was the good little girl and went the corporate route. And I've been thinking about all the people I've encountered in my lifetime that folks would call them a little different. When I was really young, they would be referred to as hippie types. And of course, as I got older, I wondered sometimes if they were always stoned, which I know that is such a horrible thing to say because it's really not true, but they were so laid back and they just seemed to go with the flow so easily. Things just sort of rolled off of them. And truth be told, I was a bit jealous. I wanted to be like that. They always had crystals and talked about chakras and energy and spirit, which wasn't really sure what that was. Kind of assumed it was maybe their form of God. And they always had whatever herb you needed. You'd be in a conversation talking about this or that in your life, and they would say, "Oh, I have the perfect thing for that for you to try." I truthfully always thought it was kind of neat, even though I didn't really understand it. I thought they were fun, but they weren't really taken seriously. I would find often they were just dismissed by what I'm calling sort of mainstream society. And people would say, "Oh, they're harmless. They're just a bit out there. They're a bit different." Now, of course, thinking back through my life, I feel like I've always had at least one person like this in each phase of my life. And I would always be intrigued, always without fail. And you would ask questions, but I don't know, I guess I always felt like I was kind of being rude by asking all these sort of intrusive questions about what is that and why are you doing this? So, I don't know, I guess I never really connected. And I did what a lot of the other people did. I guess I would sort of dismiss them and what they were doing. That isn't till I were one. But even now, I often find myself hiding that part of myself. I've noticed probably the past 6 months or a year, I would say, I've slowly introduced it to people that are in the various circles of my life, but it's still very few. I would say probably 2 to 3 maybe know how deep it really goes, and that includes my husband who lives with me, so he knows. But often even then, when I'll say things, I put what I do under the name or the description of spirituality, or sometimes woo. I think when you say spirituality, people think woo. I bet you've heard that word, right? People go, "Oh, they're into all that woo stuff." So when I decided to end the first season of the podcast and move into the second, it was so I could sort of come out from behind that shield of marketing that I would talk about a lot which I still enjoy and I'm still willing to help people with. But I needed to make this spirituality journey fully what I wanted to talk about. Now, of course, me being me, the marketing thing going on, as I was diving into this, there were discussions about the name and, should I change it? Are there things I should change about it? And I would poll my different friend groups for their thoughts. And while all this was going on, there are things that were said to me and things that, of course, had been said to me before. And it really started to dawn on me and sink in how broad a term spirituality really is. How there are so many things that are labeled that way because the person speaking about it simply has no other label or maybe the knowledge to understand what it really is. Many people actually think that when you say spiritual, you mean witchy things. I'll admit for a long time I probably did as well. And even now, I may be one of the reasons that people are confused. I don't say, oh, that's a witch thing or that's a spiritual thing. I mean, maybe I should, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's a crossover thing. And I absolutely have friends and people that are spiritual, and they will tell you, oh, by no means do they consider themselves a witch or consider what they do a witchy thing. But it's almost as if you have to be a part of this quote unquote woo world to kind of know what the difference is. So, of course, as I got started into season 2, I said, well, maybe we need to start with what is spirituality? What does it really mean? And the truth is, as I looked into it and was doing more research on it, it seemed to depend on who you asked as to what it meant. It was hard to find sort of a clear definition that didn't fall in, this is my belief, my take on spirituality. I did come across a lady named Elizabeth Scott, PhD, and what she had to say I thought was perfect, and it went like this. Spirituality is the broad concept of a belief in something beyond the self. It strives to answer questions about the meaning of life, how people are connected to each other, truths about the universe, and other mysteries of human existence. Y'all, how perfect is that? I mean, it's just so concise and says it so beautifully. And think about it. How many times have you heard it? How many times have you said it? There has to be more to life than this. And based on these definitions and the things that I've seen, it seems to suggest that spirituality is the belief that there is a greater power or a source that connects all things. That there's more to life than what we see here on this plane. I do believe that your spiritual journey is a deeply personal thing. It's where you're exploring your inner self, where you're seeking your purpose, your meaning. You're seeking that connection to the higher power that you believe in. I think most people that are on a spiritual path are on a journey of self-discovery and self-transcendence. It often goes beyond religion and those frameworks that are set up within a religion. It invites us to explore our relationship with the universe or with our source. For me, my source is God or Creator. So that's going to include exploring nature and our inner selves and truly finding that connection. Now, of course, this can be done several ways. Some people do choose religion. I have chosen religion most of my life and still have religion in my life. And often what will come with that is those frameworks and rituals and teachings that help guide you along this way, along this path. You'll see others that follow what's considered more a New Age path. And that's going to bring elements of things like Eastern philosophies and energy healing and metaphysics. And I'm going to stop for just a second. For folks that have never done this before, metaphysics maybe a big word. It was for me at one point. And the way I understand it is it's an idea or even, I guess, a doctrine that is positioned as outside of human sense perception. So hopefully that helps. And in this new age path, back to that, you'll see an emphasis on personal growth, holistic well being, and just sort of that interconnectedness of things. You'll see a lot of use of yoga, meditation, crystals, astrology, and the energy healing we mentioned before. That's what you'll see as a lot of their modalities that they use. There's also shamanic traditions. I might not have said that right. Here you're going to see deep connection in nature, and these people will honor ancestral wisdom and they use healing practices. You'll see a lot of plant medicine work here, especially to connect with the spirit world and to gain insights that they're looking for. And it seems that the reasons people begin such a path, even though they may choose different ways to go about it, the reasons are often pretty similar. Maybe they're questioning what happens after death, or they're just trying to understand other people so that they can connect, on a deeper level, or just have a better relationship. It can help you feel compassion and empathy and just give you a greater overall understanding of other people. Maybe you have a boss who is just a total narcissist, and beginning a journey like this could help you understand them better, to help you communicate better. It could be the same with your children or family members or friends, really anybody that you encounter in your life. Some people start a spiritual journey just looking for happiness. They're looking to go beyond the sort of material things and the things that are in front of them on this physical plane. They want to understand what's beyond all these external rewards that we seek when we're here in our human form. All of this, though, helps us make the world a better place, right? If we understand more, we react differently, we can diffuse situations, we can not escalate situations, or we can even use moments to teach other people different ways they can look at their life. We can just basically spread more light. And then, of course, you have those of us that are looking to help find our purpose and our meaning for being here on this earth. I think it's evident that we continue to have people that simply don't understand a lot of these practices and consider them outside of religion. I just don't feel that that's true. I feel like many of these practices actually follow organized religion. And we talked about it before. It's simply the path that people have chosen to connect to their higher power. And I know, being raised in the Christian environment, there are a lot of people in that religion that would look at some of these practices and feel like that they're outside of Christianity. But the more I've researched it, the more I've looked at it, I just don't feel like that's true. We're all looking for common goals, which is to be better people, to serve our purpose, and to connect to our Creator. It's pretty similar, if you ask me. There's also research that indicates that having some kind of religion or spirituality in your life actually has huge positive impacts. It can help you deal with your stress or your emotions day to day. It can make it easier to make social connections or find communities to be a part of, which, of course, that can help your mental health. And then that in turn can help your physical health. It's also known that the better you feel mentally, there will be a direct connection to your physical state. So, people with that connection to their higher power, to God, Creator, Source, are generally going to be overall healthier with more positive feelings. Now, maybe you're asking yourself, what are some things you can do to practice spirituality? I would start with looking at your mental health. Look at how you feel. Are there things you need to work on to make that better? This can be with someone who can help you do things like energy healings, if you want to try that. It could be a therapist, it could be a combination of these things. I would recommend seeing what's available to you, do some research, and try some things and see what works for you. And the mental health can also help your relationships and your interactions with other people. We said that part before. This not only helps you grow, but it helps you make the world a better place, a more light-filled place. You've probably also heard people talk about mindfulness. And this is part of that when you recognize these things in yourself, how you react, how others react. And as you learn about yourself, you'll start to recognize those things in others. And it kind of helps you be less judgmental. It helps you know how to process that a little better. Mindfulness is also about living in the present moment. So this way you aren't dwelling on what happened in the past or worrying about what's going to happen in the future. You're just present at this time. It helps you be more aware and more appreciative or grateful. Speaking of grateful, the first place I started with my journey was pulling myself out of a really dark place with a gratitude journal. And even if it was a small thing, I wrote it down every day, and it really helped me see what was really important and how much happiness was already in my life. And when you're happier and you're recognizing those things, it helps you feel better. It helps your mental health. It helps you raise your vibration. And lastly, I would meditate. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, it can make a big difference in your mindset. It helps you sort of get centered. It will bring down that negative energy, bring up your positive energy, because it's a way to sort of just clear your mind and really see what you need to see without all the clutter of the day. And now, whether that's in your everyday life or if you're going in trying to commune with your higher power, God, Creator, or maybe your spirit guides, which we'll get into those in another time on another episode. The point is, your meditation practice may grow to all those things and more. Or it may just simply be a time to be quiet with your own mind, calm your mind, calm your soul. It's about what works for you. That is the key. One thing I want to circle back around to real quick, and that was spirituality and witchcraft. Those are different paths. Now, there are things that are going to cross over, or maybe a better way to say it is there are tools that both use, and of course, seeking wisdom, connection, and personal transformation. Those things are similar. But there seem to be some differences as well. A lot of it seems to go to things like the rituals and the spell work and things of that nature that often spiritual people are not going to partake in. Like, I don't deny that there's a crossover. I do want to get to that in a different episode where we can talk about what witchcraft really is. I think my main point here is that a spiritual person does not have to follow what would be quote unquote witchcraft, and I guess in a lot of ways vice versa. Or if they're following witchcraft, that may be the spiritual path that they have chosen. So it's not as cut and dry as it seems to a lot of people. But again, we're going to get into the witchcraft part another time. Like I said before, spirituality is a deeply personal journey, and it's a lifelong journey, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. This can be a more individual practice that doesn't necessarily have to adhere to a lot of specific rules, or It could follow a religion and adhere to those frameworks and those teachings. It could be a bit of both. What I encourage you to do is have an open mind and an open heart, and to embrace your curiosity, to explore. There may be things that you try that simply don't resonate or don't align with you. I find I can feel it in my gut if it's something I want to pursue or that I don't want to pursue. My intuition will tell me, which we'll talk about that another time too. But I think it's important to trust yourself and to trust how you feel. Meditate, reflect, listen to your own inner voice. I think it's also important to ask questions. If there's something you don't understand, ask. Find teachers and guides that you can trust and that you trust their counsel. Your spirit journey should always be a source of joy and growth and transformation. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to like and rate and follow and do all the things for our podcast. Those things really do help us out. Links and other important things that you would need to know are in the show notes, so make sure to check those out. If you have ideas of topics you'd like to hear about or questions you want us to answer, drop those on the Ballyhoo Bridge Facebook page or on IG at ballyhoo_bridge. If you're looking for guidance in your journey, head over to ballyhoobridge.com. There you can choose a time for a free 30-minute clarity call with me. In the meantime, take care of yourself and spread your light to the world. Until next time.